Patriotism is a wonderful word if it's used properly and it's not used against citizens. Yes, that has negative aspects. When you do things for your country, that's positive. Patriotism. If you love your country and you're willing to work for it and make it better, you're a patriot. Being willing to die for it does not necessarily make you a patriot. Depends on where you die. Sometimes you're a patriot and sometimes you're a fool. That's the negativity. I found it interesting about Lafayette's comment that if he had known slavery would exist, he would not have done what he did. I agree with him. But you can't stop people from doing what they're going to do.
I love America, and I'm very sensitive to people criticizing it. Of course, there are aspects that need to be criticized, but if it's done intelligently, I have no problem with that. But I think a lot of people do not trust America, and this whole notion of America not being respected as much as it used to in the world, I don't agree with that. That was one of the films that was part of this exhibit, saying that America's still respected in the world. Well, in the past 8 years, government of France has elected a leader who is more friendly to this country. And at the time, people thought that we were ostracizing people, where in fact a lot of governments are coming back to understand America and really respect what we've done and make this world safer.
I think it's really good to be patriotic, and I think it's good that to believe in your country, but it's still okay to not believe in everything your country says, and you don't have to believe in everything your country says, but it's good to show how much you care about your country.
But patriotism does have negative aspects, and especially in revolutions. For example, in the French Revolution, which Lafayette did have a part in, the patriotism and nationalism went to, outright radicalism. For example, Robespierre and the Committee for Public Safety. Nationalism and patriotism spilled over, and the blood spilled over to the guillotine.
I think it's a timely exhibition also. It's good for us to realize how important France, the role was that France played in our founding.
I remember the response to John Glenn coming down, to New York and the ticker tape parade. The only difference is that today, for better or worse, we would probably accord this kind of thing to sports heroes as well. But I think we still like to respond to heroes, but do we really have heroes today? Do we have great men and women? I think we do, but I think that the scrutiny we put them under makes it very hard to, quote, worship them in a sense. Perhaps there were closets in Lafayette and in his history, but nobody knew about them. Today it's impossible.
In our own time, we don't treat our heroes very well. They come back from the wars maimed, hurt physically and emotionally, and we do very little to help them. The Veterans Administration denies claims all the time. However, in that time, I hope that we treated them better, even though I know all about the bonus riots in like the Whiskey Rebellion in 1789, and there were riots after the Civil War because people didn't get their bonuses. So I don't really think we ever treated our heroes well, unless they were famous men.
Today, I think it's much harder for people to be so enthusiastic about heroes. I think there's much less agreement about who is a hero and what constitutes heroism. I suppose you could say that the first responders to 9/11 down at the World Trade Towers, that they're heroes. Pretty much everybody considers them heroes. But in a different way. These are different times, and I don't think that we have heroes in quite the same way.
Interesting that the exhibit indicated that Lafayette filled the need because of the lack of a national religion. In my years of studying American history, I never really had that kind of a perspective.
I liked the memorabilia and how everybody was wearing his portrait as though he was a fad as well. I walk down Lafayette Street almost every day, and I never really knew the man behind the name. So, with that said, now I understand why there are streets, counties, etc., named after him, and I know what he represents to American history now.
The extraordinary tour that takes him everywhere throughout the east of the Mississippi. I just had no sense of what was involved in that tour. Astonishing that he was an espouser of the abolition of slavery. I had no idea of that. Astonishing to see the data on how people used his visit to kind of create a sense of nationhood. We live near Fayetteville, New York. I had no idea. I never thought of the way in which Fayetteville, New York was named after Lafayette.
I didn't really know the story of how thrilled the American people were about Lafayette's visit, although I have a weekend house upstate, and there's a little warm springs that Lafayette visited, and the fact that he visited is still memorialized on the outside of that warm spring.
Vive la France, Vive la République, for their noteworthy gentlemen that came to the United States to see how we lived and get us started. Thank you for giving our start. Vive la République, Vive la France.